Let's get really to the biggest story of the night now, shaping up to be the biggest story of the week, the UAW strike. We just heard last hour from UAW President Shawn Fain, and 3 of these regional local chapters of the UAW have been called to strike starting at midnight. Let's go to Detroit right now. We're going to get an update from Fox 2's Dave Kinchen. He's standing by. Dave, good to see you. So it is official now. We just heard from Fain, and we got, what, about an hour left before this is even more official. What more do we know?
Yeah, that's right. Good to see you as well. We're here outside of Solidarity House, the UAW headquarters. We know Missouri, Ohio, and right here in Michigan, there will be 3 plants that will have some form of a strike that will begin at midnight. The stand-up strike is what UAW President Shawn Fain is calling it. It's a phased-in approach. His words to keep to keep the big 3 guessing. We got some numbers for you. There's a lot of data on this whiteboard here, but we know there's 57,000 UAW members who work for Ford. There's 46,000 who work for GM. There's 42,000 who work for Stellantis. That's the company that essentially owns the Chrysler brand, including the Chrysler-Fiat merger from some years back. The UAW has wanted originally about 46% increase in wages. They've come down to about 35%. The highest we've seen tonight a brand new offer from General Motors at 20%. And that includes 10% in the first year. That's up from 18% where they were, and Ford's at 20% what they're offering, and the last known number from Stellantis, 17.5% is what they're offering. That's their counter proposal to the UAW so far. But the question is that good enough? It doesn't seem like it, because the UAW is really trying to get that number a lot closer. So we talked to some analysts and labor relations attorneys not connected to this case, not working on it, but following it, to get their thoughts on the benefits and the risks of this type of strike. And here we go. The 11th hour is essentially here, and the UAW's stand-up strike plans against the big 3 are set to change the game, according to labor experts. And in some ways, it already has.
They've kept everyone guessing. I think it is a game changer in terms of how these negotiations have played out. In some sense, we saw maybe a bit of a delay in some of the economic offers back and forth. I'm not sure if that's because some of the big 3 were waiting to see what other ones would do, who would blink first, or if it was just a response to this new strategy.
Brett Miller is a labor relations attorney in downtown Detroit. He says the UAW's historic strategy of ramping up the strike action in a phased-in way is gutsy and carries its fair share of risk, especially as the big 3 continues the expensive transition into the EV world.
If you are sitting in the boardroom at one of the big 3, you're weighing the costs of what the union is asking for versus the potential business loss. Again, looking at a $3.6 billion loss GM faced just a few years ago in 2019 from a strike. These are some very serious calculations that you have to consider when weighing what's a fair deal.
Auto analysts say it could work, and the big 3 might be cornered with no choice but to get closer to the union's demands of acceptable double-digit pay percentage increases, the wiping out of tiers, and proper inflation adjustments. Or it could backfire, especially if the strike goes too long.
If it goes on for too long, both parties suffer losses which it is difficult to recoup. And they're vulnerable in the sense that the pressures for electrification and the competition in the industry are keen and threatening to the company. And also the union, it represents a decreasing share of the industry, which is more non-union. And obviously that may cause some companies to rethink their strategy about where they want to assign work.
Wayne State business professor Merrick Masters says the big 3 are likely planning to try and turn the tables.
Look like that in effect they lock out the employees at some sites, and that they shut down facilities so that they put pressure on the union and say, you're going to have all your workers out on strike, and you're going to have to pay the strike benefits. The more of them that are out on strike, the more pressure you're going to feel the longer they're out for you to concede something.
Now, here's what we can tell you about all of this. We're still waiting to see how the big 3 will respond to this phased-in, targeted approach to the strike. We do know that the UAW is targeting with these plants that they just announced. Again, if the strike does happen at midnight, we do know that these plants produce some of the most popular vehicles for the Big Three. So the Big Three feeling the pinch, likely even more once this all officially starts, if it officially starts. The contracts run out at 11:59 p.m. Shawn Fain also said a couple quick points, that workers will be working without a contract but are to stay on the job until he, through local leadership, calls them to join the strike as they ramp up the effort. He says while these workers are working without a contract, they cannot be fired. The strike fund will support them, although that will likely be taxed heavily as more and more people strike, if that's what happens. And another point, how do we get to this whole situation to begin with? It was back in March when the UAW elected new leadership. Shawn Fain won by 500 votes. I sat down with him as soon as he addressed the General Assembly of the UAW, and he said flat out, we are going in a bold new direction. They changed the way they're doing collective bargaining. They got rid of a lot of the lobbyists, the lawyers who worked on these collective bargaining cases in the past. Instead of calling it the president's demands that goes to the Big Three, he calls it the members' demands that were sent over to the Big Three. And all of this has happened in unprecedented form, with negotiation essentially taking place in the public. Fain on Facebook Live and the Big Three responding back and forth, instead of a lot of this going on behind closed doors like it used to in the past. So a lot of things have changed, and this is the first time ever, if this happens, that all Big Three companies will be striked against by the UAW. So we've never seen anything like that before.
Yeah,
We're live at Solidarity House, the headquarters of the UAW in Detroit. Back to you.
Yeah, you know, Dave, I mean, your point is so valid and true. This has been unfolding in front of all of us. It's been so public. They've been very, very transparent about that. So for us as journalists, that's a plus. Can you put up your whiteboard yet again? Because I was noticing some differences, from when we spoke just last night. So it seems to me the UAW leadership, they've gone down a little bit from 40 to 36%. And you're seeing Ford still at 20, GM now up to 20, but Stellantis, they're not budging at that 17.5%, are they?
Right. Yeah, that's right. Well, they did put out another counter offer, but they would not reveal publicly what the details in that contract are, in that contract offer, what they contain. So this is the last known number from Stellantis, 17.5%. It might have changed a little bit, but they haven't said publicly. And if you look at, there's one calculation that said originally the UAW was at 46%, but a basic calculation was indeed 40%, but now they're down to the mid-30s right now. GM and Ford at 20. The gap's closed, but not enough. And again, tiers are still in place according to the last counteroffers we saw from the Big Three, and that's a huge point of contention for the UAW. They want those tiers absolutely gone.
Yeah, it is just so fluid at the moment, with little under an hour left to go before this all kicks into high gear. Dave, just lastly, what are we hearing from elected leaders there in Michigan especially? Are they weighing in yet?
You know, we haven't heard just yet. It's interesting. Governor Whitmer here in Michigan, Governor Gretchen Whitmer, her office tweeted out a video of her, kind of a fun video of her at the Detroit Auto Show, which is set to start really this week. And the media, the national media, they're in town looking at cars, and she was kind of in and out of a lot of the latest vehicles at the auto show, promoting vehicles made by union workers here in the USA in Detroit. But the feeling is totally different now. Usually it's very glitzy and glamorous. The charity preview is this weekend, where people, we call it auto prom, where people get dressed up, tuxes, dresses, and they check out the cars. But the mood is very different, you know, and even in the media, a lot of folks in the media, they've changed the way they're looking at presenting the coverage of the auto show, because the backdrop is going to be quite serious. There's a big rally with Bernie Sanders just up the street, scheduled I believe tomorrow, scheduled just up the street from where the auto show will be taking place. So it's going to be a very interesting kind of tale of two stories here, all related to the autos here in Detroit. Yeah,
coincidental, ironic. I just don't even know how these two things lined up so perfectly, but it is peculiar. It is strange, of course, Bernie Sanders, a champion of labor there. But I'm from the Michigan area. I know how important the North American International Auto Show is each and every year. And now with the backdrop of this strike, Dave Kinchen, as always, thanks so much. Talk soon.
Yes, sir. Take care.
All right. In the meantime, you know, you just heard Dave kind of name check that tweet from Governor Gretchen Whitmer there in one of these new vehicles on the showroom floor there at the TCF Center in Detroit. Take a look at this video. This is what she was posting. She says, everyone's rolling like a big shot when they're riding in a union-made Michigan whip. So quite strategic there with the nod in the wording union-made there as Whitmer posting that video there on her Twitter account earlier today. So we'll wait and see. We're probably going to get some reactions in, some statements in from a lot of these Michigan lawmakers. No doubt, of course, Senator Bernie Sanders, a champion of labor there, the independent from Vermont, who is always down on the picket line with some of these striking workers. Looks like he's going to do just that there in Detroit tomorrow, like Dave just said there. I want to put up some of these other just bullet points here that we want to make sure, because this is somewhat complicated. There's a lot of moving parts, very fluid. So what we know, UAW President Shawn Fain announces a historic, quote, stand-up strike, that's what they're calling it, on September 15th tonight at midnight Eastern if no deal is reached, striking against the big three auto manufacturers, Ford, GM, and Stellantis. So UAW is asking for a 35% wage increase, a 32-hour work week, and more for members. So as of our last update from Dave Kinchen, it looks like they are at 36%. That was up to 46%. It's now down to 36%. So this is what we know. If the deal with the big three is not reached, these three chapters of the UAW will participate in the stand-up strike. So UAW Local 2250 in Wentzville, Missouri, that's a GM plant. UAW Local 12 in Toledo, that's a Stellantis plant. And UAW Local 900, that's in Wayne, Michigan. That's a Ford plant as well. We know Fain will be out there at the Michigan location there at the Ford plant, striking with those workers once the clock hits midnight. Well, speaking of Fain, we do want to let you listen in to his brief statement that he made at the top of the last hour in case you didn't catch it live. Here's what he had to say.
Good evening, UAW family. I'm going to be brief because time's of the essence. For the past 24 hours, we've been actively bargaining with Ford, General Motors, and Stellantis. For the first time in our union's history, we had all three companies bargaining right here at the Solidarity House, leading into the final hours of our strike deadline. We've been working hard trying to reach a deal for economic and social justice for our members. We have been firm. We are committed to winning an agreement with the big three that reflects the incredible sacrifice and contributions UAW members have made to these companies. We've been open. The companies, the members, and the public know that what we've been fighting for. And we've been clear. Midnight on the evening of September 14th is a deadline. UAW family, that deadline is nearly here. Tonight, for the first time in our history, we will strike all three of the big three at once. We are using a new strategy, the stand-up strike. We will call on select facilities, locals, or units to stand up and go on strike. Tonight, we call on 3 units to stand up and go on strike at midnight if we do not reach a tentative agreement in the next 2 hours. We're calling on GM, Wentzville Assembly, Local 2250 in Region 4 to stand up and strike. We're calling on Stellantis, Toledo Assembly Complex, Local 12 in Region 2B to stand up and strike. And we're calling on Ford, Michigan Assembly Plant, Final Assembly and Paint only, Local 900 in Region 1A to stand up and strike. These 3 units are being called to stand up and walk out on strike at midnight tonight. The locals that are not yet called to join the stand-up strike will continue working under an expired agreement. No contract extensions. Though the contract is expired, most of your contract is still in effect. Management cannot change terms and conditions of work in your workplace. You do not become an employee at will. You cannot be fired or disciplined for no reason. This strategy will keep the companies guessing. It will give our national negotiators maximum leverage and flexibility in bargaining. And if we need to go all out, we will. Everything is on the table. I encourage you to visit uaw.org/standup for everything you need to know about working under an expired contract. No matter what, all of us need to keep organizing. Rallies, protests, red shirt days, and community events. We must show the companies you are ready to join the stand-up strike at a moment's notice. And we must show the world that our fight is a righteous fight. Again, tonight at midnight, GM Wentzville Assembly, Local 2250 in Region 4, Stellantis Toledo Assembly Complex, Local 12 in Region 2B, and Ford Michigan Assembly Plant, Final Assembly and Paint Only, Local 900 in Region 1A, will stand up and walk out on strike. The rest of us will keep organizing and support them on the picket line. If we strike tonight, I'll see you on the picket line at Michigan Assembly at midnight. Tomorrow, we'll be holding a mass rally at the UAW Ford Joint Trust Building in downtown Detroit at 4 p.m. We will show our strength and unity on the first day of this historic action. All options remain on the table. National leadership will determine the appropriate targets and timing for further stand-up strike action. This is our generation's defining moment. The money is there, the cause is righteous, the world is watching, and the UAW is ready to stand up. This is our defining moment. Thank you.
All right. There you go, Shawn Fain, with those very brief remarks, because he said time is of the essence. Of course, they have about 45 minutes left before these stand-up strikes begin in full there in these three locations. So in the meantime, let's just kind of go over the nuts and bolts yet again of the case itself. You see there, those are the three units, those three chapters that are striking in just about 45 minutes' time, walking off the job. They're at UAW Local 2250 in Wentzville, Missouri. That's a GM plant. Also at UAW Local 12 in Toledo, Ohio, a Stellantis plant. And at UAW Local 900, they're a Ford plant in Wayne, Michigan. And that's where Shawn Fain is going to be leading the charge there as these three UAW local chapters will be walking off the job. Now, remember, UAW members are asking for a 35% wage increase, also a 32-hour work week, and more benefits for members, also cost-adjusted benefits for inflation for members, how to deal with the rise in the manufacture of EV vehicles as well, and so much more. So we've got to keep an eye on this going into the overnight hours and the early morning hours to see who is responding to this, whether or not we're going to hear from the White House, from the governor's mansion there in Lansing. Remember, it's not just focused on Michigan. Obviously, Detroit is the auto capital of the world, Motor City, but these plants are in Indiana, Illinois, Missouri, Kentucky, Texas, and other states as well. So it's going to be impacting all of these economies going forward. We don't have a good sense or a timeline of how long a strike could last. Now, remember, this all happened back in 2019, but it was with only GM workers, members of the UAW who work at GM plants, and that lasted for about 40 days. So the UAW just tweeted this out. Take a look at this. They say, stand up. Stand up for our families. Stand up for our communities. Stand up to corporate greed. Stand up for economic justice. stand up. And like I said, Fox Business has been in touch with the CEOs of the big three automakers, including Jim Farley, the CEO of Ford. He spoke with our friend, Fox Business's Grady Trimble. He says this: just because a plant goes down doesn't mean it's going to come back up quickly. He says sometimes it takes days or weeks for a plant to come back up. He says, how much higher can you go with wage increases, with health and pension benefits that they're asking for? And so this is so interesting. We're going to probably be hearing as well from the big three CEOs as this strike is about to get underway here in just about 45 minutes' time.